Before we begin, let me ask you something quietly. Have you ever had a moment where something inside you didn't work the way you wanted it to? A reaction that came too fast, a feeling that stayed too long, a thought that repeated itself, even when you try to let it go. And in those moments, it can be so easy to believe something is wrong with you. Not temporarily wrong, but fundamentally wrong, as if somewhere deep inside there is a flaw, a break, a malfunction. But what if that isn't true at all? What if, instead of being broken, you've simply been running on old patterns that were built for a different time, a different version of you, a different kind of survival? And what if that part of you that feels stuck isn't a defect, but a system learning how to change? Imagine for a moment that inside you there is a vast, intricate circuit board, not cold or mechanical, but alive in its own way. Delicate pathways, thin lines of connections, woven together in patterns so complex you can spend a lifetime exploring them and still only begin to understand. Every experience you've ever had, every moment of joy, every moment of fear, every time you were hurt, every time you adapted, has shaped those pathways. Not randomly, but precisely, because your system has always been trying to do one thing: keep you functioning, keep you moving, keep you safe in the ways it understood how. And so, signals began to travel. A moment of rejection, a pathway formed. Protect yourself. A moment of uncertainty, and another pathway formed. Prepare for the worst. A moment of overwhelm, and another. Stay alert, stay tense, stay ready. And the more those signals traveled, the stronger the pathways became. Not because they were right, not because they were permanent, but because repetition creates efficiency. And your system is incredibly efficient. It learns quickly. It remembers deeply. It builds pathways that can carry signals faster and faster until one day you don't even notice the signal beginning. You only feel the result. The anxiety that seems to appear out of nowhere. The thought that feels like truth instead of pattern. The reaction that feels automatic. And from the outside, it can look like something is malfunctioning. But from the inside, something else is happening entirely. Because the circuit board doesn't judge the signal it carries. It doesn't ask, is this thought helpful? Is this reaction aligned? Is this belief still needed? It simply follows the path that has been laid down. And so what you've been experiencing is not a malfunction. It is a system doing exactly what it was designed to do. The only difference is the design was never meant to be final. There's something many people don't realize about circuits. They can change. Connections can be altered. Pathways can be softened. New routes can be formed. Not instantly, not forcibly, but gradually, intelligently, through attention, through awareness, through repetition in a new direction. And here's where something profound begins to shift. Because if you are the system, then you are also the one who can guide the rewiring. Not by fighting the old pathways, not by trying to rip them out, but by understanding them. You might begin to notice how certain thoughts follow familiar routes, how certain feelings arrive, along pathways that have been traveled many times before, and instead of resisting them, you can simply observe. Is this signal moving through an old circuit? And something softens in that recognition, because you're no longer inside the reaction. You're seeing the system itself, and in that space, new possibilities can appear. Because every time you pause, every time you choose a slightly different response, every time you bring awareness to what is once automatic, you are doing something subtle but incredibly powerful. You are introducing a new signal. And at first it may feel unfamiliar, weak, uncertain, like a path that hasn't quite formed yet. But the system notices. It always does. And if that signal is repeated, gently, constantly, without force, something begins to happen. A new pathway starts to take shape, not replacing the old one immediately, but existing alongside it. And then, over time, as a new pathway is used again and again, it becomes easier, more natural, more available, until one day you realize something quietly remarkable. The reaction that used to feel automatic is no longer the only option. The thought that once felt like truth is now just one of many possibilities. The feeling that once overwhelmed the system moves through without taking over. And in that moment, it becomes clear. You were never broken. You were never malfunctioning. You were learning. Learning through repetition. Learning through adaptation. Learning through survival. And now, you are learning something new. How to guide your own system. How to choose where energy flows. How to allow new pathways to form. Not perfectly, not all at once, but steadily. Because this is not about becoming someone else. It is about becoming more aware of the system you already are. A system that is capable of change. A system that responds to attention. A system that evolves with every signal you send through it. And maybe, as you sit with this, you can begin to feel something different. Not pressure to fix anything, not urgency to change everything, but a quiet sense of possibility. Because if pathways can form, then they can also be reshaped. If signals can repeat, then new ones can begin. If patterns can exist, then new patterns can change. And all of it happens within. So the next time something arises, a thought, a feeling, a reaction, you might remember this. This is not a malfunction. This is a signal moving through a system that is learning how to rewire itself. And in that remembering, something shifts. Not dramatically, not all at once, but just enough to begin. Because you are not broken. You are not failing. You are not stuck. You are living a system, learning, adapting, rewiring, one quiet connection at a time. And now, you don't need to do anything at all. Not to figure anything out. Not to change anything immediately. Not to force any kind of shift. Because something inside you already understands how change actually happens. So you can begin by simply allowing your body to settle. Maybe noticing the surface beneath you. the way it supports you, without effort, without expectation. And as you notice that support, you might also notice your breathing, not changing it, just noticing the gentle rhythm of air moving in and out. And sometimes just noticing the breath is enough to let the system begin to slow. Because your body knows something your mind sometimes forgets, that slowing down is not losing control. It's returning to balance. So you can let the breath deepen in its own natural way. A little fuller on the inhale and softer on the exhale. And with each exhale, you might begin to feel a subtle release. Not all at once, just a small letting go. And as that happens, you might imagine that inside you, that intricate circuit board is still there, quiet, alive, responsive. And instead of rushing signals, instead of rapid firing patterns, you begin to notice something changing. The pace slows. Signals that once moved quickly now begin to move a little more gently, a little more clearly. And as they slow, something else becomes possible. Awareness. Because when the system is rushing, it's hard to see anything clearly. But when it slows, you begin to notice the pathways themselves. You might imagine those pathways now. Thin lines of light moving slowly through the circuitry. Some familiar, some well-worn, and others faint, waiting. And there's no need to judge any of them. No need to remove anything. Because this is not about forcing change. This is about allowing new connections to gently form. So as you continue breathing slowly, easily, you might begin to imagine a soft, steady current flowing through your system, not overwhelming, not intense, just steady. And this current carries something different. Not urgency, not fear, but clarity. And as this calm current moves, you may notice that it begins to travel along new directions. Places that haven't been used often. Places that feel open, available. And each time that current flows there, even gently, something begins to change. The pathway becomes just a little clearer, a little easier to access. And your system, without effort, begins to learn. Because this is what it does. It learns through repetition. It learns through attention. It learns from where energy flows. So you don't need to try to rewire anything. You simply allow this calm, steady signal to move. And as it moves, you might begin to feel something in your body, a softening, in the shoulders, in the chest, in the space behind the eyes, places that may have been holding tension without you even noticing it. And as those areas soften, the system becomes more receptive, even more open to new patterns. You might notice your thoughts beginning to change slightly, not disappearing, but becoming quieter, more spaced out, like signals that are no longer competing, but simply passing through. And in that quiet, there is space for something new. Because every moment like this, every breath where you allow ease, every second where you observe instead of react, you are strengthening something. A new pathway. A pathway of calm. A pathway of clarity. A pathway of choice. And at first it may seem subtle, almost unnoticeable, but your system notices. It always notices. And it begins to favor what is repeated, what is safe, what is steady, what is clear. So as you continue to rest here, you might imagine those new pathways growing just a little stronger, not replacing anything, just becoming available, so that in the future, when a familiar signal begins, you have options, not because you force them, but because your system has learned them. And this learning continues even when you're not thinking about it, even when your attention drifts, even when you sleep, because this is not something you have to manage. This is something your system naturally does. And as you sit here now, you might begin to feel a quiet sense of trust. Trust in your body, trust in your mind, trust in the system within you that has always been trying to help you, even when it didn't feel that way. And now, instead of working against it, you are beginning to work with it, gently guiding where attention flows, gently allowing new connections to form. And you might notice that this feels different, not like effort, not like pressure, but like something unfolding naturally. And as this continues, you can let yourself drift just a little deeper into that calm, a little more relaxed, a little more supported, knowing that nothing needs to be rushed, nothing needs to be forced, because the system within you is already learning, already adapting, already rewiring in exactly the way it needs to. So you can simply rest here for a few more moments, breathing softly, easily, and allowing everything inside you to continue exactly as it's meant to. Quietly, gently, naturally, one connection at a time. So here are the key meanings of the story. Number 1, you are not broken. You are patterned. At the core of the story is a powerful reframe. You are not malfunctioning. You are responding exactly as your internal wiring has been shaped. Every reaction, thought loop, or emotional pattern is not evidence of failure, but evidence of learning. Meaning, what feels like a flaw is often just a well-protected pathway. Number 2, the mind learns through repetition, not truth. The circuit board doesn't decide what's true. It reinforces what's repeated. If a thought, fear, or belief has been practiced enough, it becomes automatic, regardless of whether it's helpful. Meaning, your current patterns are not proof of reality, they're proof of conditioning. Number 3, awareness creates separation from the pattern. The moment you recognize this is a signal moving through a pathway, you are no longer fully inside it. You become the observer of the system, rather than the system itself. Meaning, awareness is the first and most important step in change. It creates choice. Number 4, change happens through gentle rewiring, not force. The story emphasizes that currents don't change through resistance or force. They change through new signals repeated over time. Meaning, lasting transformation is not about fighting yourself. It's about guiding yourself. Number 5, new pathways start weak, but grow with attention. At first, new ways of thinking or feeling may feel unnatural, even fragile. But with repetition, they strengthen. Meaning, discomfort in change is not failure. It's the beginning of rewiring. Number 6, you can hold old patterns while building new ones. The story avoids the idea of deleting old wiring. Instead, it introduces coexistence, new pathways forming along old ones. Meaning, healing doesn't erase your past. It expands your options. Number 7, the nervous system is trying to protect you, not hurt you. Even anxiety, overthinking, or emotional reactivity are framed as protective signals, not enemies. Meaning, your system is not working against you. It has been trying to help in the only way it knew. Number 8, slowing down allows rewiring to begin. When the system is overloaded, signals loop automatically. Slowing the breath, the body, and the attention loop allows new pathways to become visible. Meaning, clarity and change come from a regulation, not more thinking. Number 9, you are both the system and the guide. You are not separate from your wiring, but you are also not limited by it. You are the awareness that can influence where energy flows, meaning you are both the pattern and the one who can reshape it. Number 10, transformation is subtle and gradual. The story removes pressure for instant change and replaces it with trust and process. Rewiring is happening even when you don't notice it. Meaning, growth doesn't need to be dramatic to be real. It's happening quietly over time. Number 11, identity is flexible, not fixed. If your self is made up of pathways, then your identity is not permanent. It evolves as your rewiring evolves, meaning you are not who you've been, you are who you're becoming. And number 12, hope is built into the system, the most powerful underlining message. If the brain can learn patterns, it can also learn new ones, meaning change is not something you have to earn, it's something your system is designed to do. And as the story comes to a close, you might begin to notice something quiet, something subtle, something that wasn't there before. Not a dramatic change, not something you have to prove, just a small shift in the way you see yourself. Because maybe now, you don't look at your thoughts the same way. Maybe you don't feel your reactions as something that's wrong, but something that's been learned. And that means something important. It means nothing inside you is broken, only practiced, and anything that has been practiced can be practiced differently. So as you move forward from here, you don't have to fix yourself. You don't have to rush into becoming someone new. You can simply begin noticing the signals, allowing new ones, and trusting that something inside you is already learning, already adapting, already rewiring in the ways you may not even realize it yet. And if this story resonated with you, if something inside you felt seen or softened or just a little more understood, then this is exactly the kind of space we create here. So you can subscribe and return to this place whenever you need it. And if you ever feel ready to go even deeper, to have a story created just for you, your patterns, your experience, your transformation, you can reach out directly to me at rhonda's@gmail.com. Until then, just remember this: you are not the malfunction. You are the system, learning gently, patiently to rewire itself, one quiet connection at a time.